back to the RADIX Intro series. We're 3 videos in now, and the picture has been building piece by piece. In video 1, we established the foundational distinction, the difference between transits and timing techniques, the weather and the season. In video 2, we went deep on annual perfections, the yearly cycle that activates one house of your chart at a time and produces a Lord of the Year. Both of those were about the yearly level of timing, 1 year at a time, cycling through 12 houses. Video 3 is about something bigger, the multi-year arc, the long sweep of a life divided into planetary chapters, some lasting nearly a decade, some lasting over a decade, each one shaping the fundamental themes of everything that happens within it. This is Firdaria, and honestly, this is one of the most fascinating techniques in the entire tradition. Video 3, Firdaria, and I want to open this one with a scenario that's going to sound familiar. You've been tracking your transits. Maybe you know your Saturn return is coming, or it already passed. You check your chart regularly. You see a major transit building to your 10th house, a Jupiter conjunction, a Saturn crossing, and you wait for something significant to happen in your career. And nothing happens. The transit comes and goes. Life continues as normal. Or the opposite. Everything shifts at once. Something major happens, a career change, a significant loss, a sudden opportunity. And when you go back and look at the transits, they're completely unremarkable. Nothing in the sky accounts for what just happened. This is one of the most common frustrations people have with astrology. And it's always the same cause. They're reading the weather without the season. They're tracking transits without the underlying timing layer that tells you which ones are actually going to land. We talked about annual perfections as part of that timing layer. Firdaria is the other part, and in some ways, the more important one. Firdaria, also spelled Firdar, or Firdaria, is a timing technique that divides your entire life into a sequence of planetary periods. Each planet governs a specific span of years. And during that span, it acts as the dominant force, shaping the major themes of your life. Think about what that means for a second. Not what's happening in the sky today, not what the transits look like this week, but which planet is fundamentally running the chapter of your life that you're currently in and has been, possibly for years. The technique comes from medieval Persian astrology, transmitted through Arabic sources around the 9th and 10th centuries. It was used by Guido Bonatti, one of the most influential traditional astrologers in the Western tradition, the same astrologer whose work forms the foundation of the RADIX system. This is a technique with a documented track record across 1,000 years of practice. If you watched video 1, this framing is going to click immediately. A transit tells you where the planets are today. It changes week to week, sometimes day to day. It's the weather. Your Firdaria period is the season. It's a long chapter years, sometimes close to a decade, that establishes the fundamental context of your life during that time. The overarching theme, the planetary governor, and just like we said in video 1, without the season, the weather report has no context. You can see rain on the forecast, but not know whether it means a light spring shower or a winter storm. Firdaria is the season. Transits are what happens within it. And the combination of the 2 plus annual perfections is what gives traditional astrology its precision. Before we get into the Firdaria sequence itself, there's one concept you need to understand. Sect. Sect is simply whether you were born during the day or at night. And if the sun was above the horizon at the moment of your birth, you have a day chart. If the sun was below the horizon after sunset, or before sunrise at your birthplace, you have a night chart. This distinction matters enormously in traditional astrology and comes up in several techniques. For Firdaria specifically, your sect determines the entire sequence of planetary periods, which planet you start with, and the order they follow for the rest of your life. Get the sect wrong, and you get the wrong sequence. You're reading someone else's map. Radix determines your sect automatically from your birth time and location. But it's worth understanding why it matters, because this is one of the places where a lot of free calculators get the calculation wrong. and then the result feels completely off because it is completely off. Here are the two Firdaria sequences. Notice that the night chart sequence doesn't simply reverse the day sequence. It starts at a different point entirely. The same 7 planets in a different order producing a completely different life map. After the 7 classical planets complete their sequence, periods for the lunar nodes follow 3 years for the north node and 2 years for the south node in most systems. The full cycle runs approximately 75 years. Each planet rules a fixed number of years. Mercury has the longest period at 13 years, Jupiter at 12, Saturn at 11, Sun at 10, Moon at 9, Venus at 8, Mars at 7. Add those up, and you get 70 years for the 7 classical planets. And then the nodal periods bring the full cycle to approximately 75 years. What this means is that a person born with a day chart spends their first 10 years of life in a sun period, years 10 through 18 in a Venus period, 18 through 31 in a Mercury period, and so on. A person born with a night chart spends their first 9 years in a moon period, 9 through 20 in a Saturn period, 20 through 32 in a Jupiter period. 2 people born the same year, one a day chart, one a night chart, are in completely different Firdaria chapters. Their transits might look similar. Their Firdaria sequences are different maps entirely. Here's where it gets even more precise. And this is the part that separates Firdaria from a lot of other timing techniques. Within each major Firdaria period, the years are subdivided into 7 subperiods, each governed by one of these 7 classical planets in sequence. These are called the minor Firdaria periods, or sub-Firdaria. They tell you which planet is most active within the larger chapter. So if you're in a Saturn major period, the first sub-period is Saturn-Saturn. The second is Saturn-Jupiter. The third is Saturn-Mars, and so on through all 7 planets. A Saturn major with a Venus sub-period is going to feel genuinely different from a Saturn major with a Mars sub-period, even though the overarching Saturn chapter is the same. The sub-period adds a texture, a specific emphasis within the larger theme. This is badass in terms of what it means for practical timing. You're not just in a Saturn period. You're in a Saturn major, Venus sub-period, and that specific combination has a meaning that's different from every other combination within the Saturn years. RADIX shows you both your major Firdaria Lord and in your current sub-period Lord with exact date ranges for each. Knowing which planet is your current Firdaria Lord is the starting point, but interpreting what that means requires looking at 4 things. This is the framework traditional astrologers use, and it's the framework the RADIX Oracle is working from when it analyzes your timing. Factor 1, the condition of your Firdaria Lord in your natal chart. Is the planet dignified in the sign of its rulership or exaltation, where it operates with full strength, or is it debilitated in detriment or fall, where it struggles to express its qualities coherently? A dignified Firdaria Lord delivers the themes of its period in a relatively clear, positive form. A debilitated Lord brings those same themes in messier, more frustrating ways. The events still happen, the themes still dominate, but the quality of the experience is shaped by whether the planet can function well. A Jupiter Firdaria with Jupiter strongly placed in your chart is a genuinely expansive period of opportunities, growth, a sense that things are opening up. A Jupiter Firdaria with Jupiter debilitated might still bring expansion, but through excess, overreach, or promises that don't deliver, same planet, different quality. Natal condition is the difference. Factor 2, which houses your Firdaria Lord rules in your natal chart. The houses a planet rules are the areas of life most activated during its Firdaria period, regardless of what transits are doing. If Mercury rules your 7th house, relationships are going to be a central theme of this period. If Saturn rules your 2nd and 8th houses and you're in a Saturn Firdaria, finances and shared resources are structurally in focus. This is why the same Firdaria period plays out differently for different people. Two people in a Saturn Firdaria are both under Saturn's influence, but Saturn rules different houses in their respective charts, and so the specific areas of life that come forward are different. Factor 3, which house your Firdaria Lord occupies, where it physically sits in your natal chart, while the houses it rules tell you which areas of life are activated thematically. The house it occupies tells you where the planet's energy physically operates. Mercury, in your second house during a Mercury Firdaria, will express its themes through finances, income, and possessions. Mercury, in your ninth house, will express them through education, belief systems, travel, and publishing. The rulership and the occupation together give you a much fuller picture, the themes and focus, and the arena where those themes are most actively playing out. Factor 4. The Firdaria Lord's relationship to other natal planets. Planets don't operate in isolation. Conjunctions, trines, oppositions, and squares from other planets condition how the Firdaria Lord expresses itself throughout its entire period. Jupiter conjunct your Firdaria Lord is a gift. It adds protection, expansion, and a quality of good fortune to the entire period. Saturn conjunct your Firdaria Lord introduces tests, delays, and demands. The period may be productive, but it's going to require genuine effort and patience. A benefic planet, Jupiter or Venus, closely aspecting the Firdaria Lord, tends to soften and support the period. A malefic Saturn or Mars in tight aspect tends to bring its themes through friction and challenge. And understanding these four factors together is how a traditional astrologer reads a Firdaria period. And it's the analytical framework the oracle in RADIX applies to your specific chart when you ask about your current timing. Let's come back to the scenario we opened with, because now we have the framework to explain it. Saturn transits your seventh house roughly every 29 years. When it does, some people experience profound relationship restructuring. A marriage ends, a significant partnership transforms, something changes at the level of how you relate to other people fundamentally. Other people, same Saturn transit to the same seventh house. A little friction, nothing dramatic. The difference isn't random. It's almost always the Firdaria. If you're in a Saturn Firdaria or in a period ruled by a planet connected to your seventh house, that Saturn transit lands with its full weight. If you're in a Jupiter Firdaria or a Venus Firdaria with no particular connection to Saturn, the same transit is real, but it's not the year's defining story. It's background noise. Your Firdaria period amplifies the transits of planets related to the current Lord. In a Mars Firdaria, Mars transits hit harder. In a Venus Firdaria, Venus transits to relationship houses become more consequential. In a Saturn Firdaria, Saturn transits especially to the houses Saturn rules in your chart are the ones to watch most closely. Firdaria sets the chapter. Transits tell you what happens within it, and now you have both. Let me make this concrete with a simplified example. Take a person born with a night chart, and their sequence starts with the moon. So, from birth through age 9, they're in a moon Firdaria, themes of home, family, emotional foundations, the mother, the early formative years. From 9 through 20, they're in a Saturn Firdaria. Ages 9 through 20 under Saturn, that's adolescence. Early identity formation, the years when structure and discipline and limitation are doing their most fundamental shaping work. For many people, this is exactly how those years feel: heavy, demanding, forming. From 20 to 32, they're in a Jupiter Firdaria, expansion, opportunity. The years when the horizon opens up. Many people entering a Jupiter Firdaria in their early 20s describe a feeling of genuine possibility. Things that were constricted under Saturn begin to breathe. From 32 to 39, Mars. 7 years of drive, ambition, conflict, and action. The Mars period tends to be intense, productive, or combative, depending on how Mars is placed in the natal chart, but rarely passive. Now overlay annual Profections on top of that. Within the Mars Firdaria, each year has its own Profection theme and Lord of the Year. Some years within Mars will be career years. 10th house profections with Mars activating professional ambition. Others will be relationship years. 7th house profections, where Mars's energy manifests through conflict or passion in partnerships. Firdaria provides the multi-year arc. Profections provide the yearly focus within it. Transits provide the specific timing of events. All three layers together, that's the full traditional reading. One thing worth saying directly: not all astrology tools calculate Firdaria correctly. And with a technique this dependent on precise birth time and accurate sect determination, errors compound quickly. Some tools use approximate planetary positions rather than precise ephemeris calculations. Others skip the day-night sect distinction entirely, which means you get the wrong planetary sequence from the very beginning. If your sequence is wrong, everything that follows is wrong. RADIX uses the Swiss ephemeris for all calculations, the same astronomical database used by professional astrologers and researchers worldwide. It's the most accurate planetary position database available. Your sect is automatically determined from your exact birth time and location. If you've ever tried a free Firdaria calculator and the result felt completely off, your instinct was probably right. The calculation was likely wrong. In RADIX, your complete Firdaria sequence is calculated automatically the moment you enter your birth data. In the timing tab, you'll see your current major Firdaria lord with its exact date range when this period started and when it ends. You'll see your current sub-period lord. You'll see a full timeline of past and future Firdaria periods, and you'll see the condition and house placement of your current lord. There's also a historical overlay feature. You can look back at which Firdaria period you were in during major life events. This is one of the most useful things you can do when you first encounter this technique. Pull up the years when something significant happened: a major career shift, a significant relationship, a loss, a breakthrough, and look at what Firdaria period you were in. For most people, this is when the technique clicks from abstract to real. You see the correlation, and it's not subtle. Once you know your current Firdaria lord, here are the 4 questions worth sitting with. Where is this planet? Which house does it occupy in your natal chart? That's where its energy is operating most directly during this period. What does it rule? Which houses in your chart carry that planet's sign on the cusp? Those are the areas of life most thematically activated by this period. What condition is it in? Dignified and strong, or debilitated and struggling? That shapes the quality and texture of the entire period, not just whether events happen, but how they feel and what they require of you. And 4th, what has this planet historically meant in your life? Look at past Firdaria periods governed by this same planet. If you've lived through one, what happened? What were the dominant themes? History doesn't repeat exactly, but the planetary signature tends to be consistent. A Venus Firdaria in your 20s and a Venus Firdaria later in life won't be identical, but they'll rhyme. The Oracle in RADIX can walk you through all 4 of these questions. For your specific chart, ask it about your current Firdaria lord, and it will analyze the placement, the rulership, the condition, and what it means for the specific chapter of your life you're currently in. Let me put all 3 videos together for a moment, because this is where the system really shows its power. You have a Firdaria period, the multi-year arc, the long chapter, the fundamental planetary governor of this stretch of your life. This is the frame that everything else sits inside. Within that, you have annual profections, cycling every year, one house activating each year on your birthday, producing a Lord of the Year who governs the current 12-month period. And within that, you have transits, the daily and weekly movements of planets through your chart, producing specific events and moments, 3 layers of timing, each one nested inside the other, each one making the others more precise. When all 3 align, when a transit involves a planet that's both your Firdaria Lord and your Lord of the Year moving through your perfected house, that's when things happen. Those are the moments traditional astrologers could identify in advance as critical windows, not just a major transit, but a convergence of timing at every level simultaneously. That kind of precision is what this tradition was built for, and it's what RADIX is built to deliver. That's video 3. Firdaria, what it is, how the sequence works, how the subperiods add precision within the larger chapter, and how to read your own Firdaria Lord using the 4-factor framework. In video 4, we're going to step back and look at the natal chart itself, but through the lens of the Bonatti tradition. This is where we get into how traditional astrology reads planetary condition, dignity, and the structure of the chart in ways that modern astrology largely abandoned. It's the foundation that makes everything else in this system as precise as it is. The picture keeps getting clearer. Video 4 is where a lot of things from videos 1 through 3 are going to lock into place in a new way. See you there. Your complete Firdaria sequence, major period, subperiod, exact date ranges, planetary condition is already calculated for you in RADIX the moment you enter your birth data. Sign up is free, no credit card. Open the timing tab and see the full arc of your life mapped out in planetary chapters. The link is in the description. See you in video 4.